All right, it's JPEG to RAW photo review number 37. And tonight we're going to wrap up the July images with part 3. We had a lot of July images. We'll wrap up the July ones. Before we get into that, how do you enter? You go over to jpegtoraw.com/contest. And over there, you can enter either our regular group, our beginner group, right through the website. There's a link there that will walk you through that. Again, this month for October, we are open. The theme is open. But we are encouraging seasonal images, and we've been getting some seasonal images. Now, if you live in a part of the country or world where your season is different than North America, so, you know, here in North America, seasonal is Halloween and fall and all that kind of stuff. If it's something different than that in your section of the world, maybe put a note with the image to let us know, hey, it's summer here, it's whatever the opposite is, spring or something like that. Let us know if it's not obvious. So that I know what you meant by the seasonal thing. So going over to jpegtoraw.com/contest. If you want to enter through the Facebook groups, there's links right there right to the Facebook group. So you can do it either way. That is easier for you. All right, AD, let's get into the images here. And let me get the first one up. Hold on. All right, first one up is this image from William Alexander. And again, we're starting with the beginners group. There's 2 images from beginners group, and then we'll get into the regulars group. And William says, local repurposed Carnegie Library, a piece of history going for the monumental strong architecture image, 16 pano and clean up in Photoshop.
Yeah. Wow. So I wouldn't have guessed that it was a pano. That's cool. Doing a little bit of what we like to call macro pano, which is using a zoom lens and capturing all the different parts of the building and then stitching it all together. I'm assuming that's what he did. Yes, William, first off, thank you so much for telling me what you're going for. You have been listening, you've been paying attention, and you're participating, and that's awesome. This is a great image. I love architecture. I love old buildings. I love the fact that it's repurposed. I think that's very cool. With it going for a monumental, strong architectural image, I might have suggested black and white for that, just to give a more taking the color out of it. There isn't a whole lot going on. It's a beautiful day, obviously. That's nice, but I would have tried black and white just to see. It's always good for architecture. It allows you to play with the contrast a little bit, which makes a more stronger image, I think. In my opinion, when you go with a high contrast black and white, it tends to be a little bolder. One of the things that I noticed, Mike, that I think he did with this image is I think he used the straightener in Lightroom or Photoshop to actually, it's called uprights, I think, and was to make the building not lean back so much. And I wanted to address that a little bit because of what he said he was going for was the strong architecture. Keep in mind, William, by leaning the building back a little, it actually makes you feel smaller and makes the building feel more powerful. So if you're trying to add power to a building, you don't need to make it stand perfectly straight up, and you don't want it to be leaning way back because that looks really weird. Yeah. But a little bit of leaning back actually gives you that powerful feeling. And sometimes when you straighten the lines too much from a low angle, it gives it that kind of Dr. Seuss look where the top of the building is bigger than the bottom, even though it's not. It's an optical illusion because we're used to seeing, the perspective as it gets a tiny bit smaller. So when you're doing those uprights, just a little trick is don't make it perfectly straight. Let it lean back ever so slightly, and it'll feel more in the pocket to you when you straighten the image. So just wanted to pass that along. And then the other thing was make sure you're doing your border patrol, because I see you got a photobomber bird flying in, or a plane or something there off to the right of the building. Yeah. And this is about the building. We don't, we want to remove any of that stuff. It would be the same if there was a a bird, on the sidewalk out in front of the building, I'd tell you to remove that too. But it's a beautiful image taken at the right time of day. I think you got the light on the front of the building, which looks really nice. But I would just try those things just to see. The other thing you could do to make a building more powerful is to shoot it straight on, like right straight on. Make it perfectly symmetrical and let the power of the architecture really overwhelm you. And that just basically takes all these other lines out of it and just totally puts the building like right in your face. So just some things to try. Nothing wrong with this image as far as I can tell. Mike, did you have any thoughts?
I was thinking the same thing as you. I like to maybe looking straight down the stairs, straight on. He might have wanted to get that side of the building too, where you have some things going on there. So that might have been the reason for getting that angle. And maybe he did shoot from straight on. I would like to have seen that one and the whole black and white. I like architecture images generally more black and white.
Yeah. And me too, unless there's like some sort of texture or something to show. Now here are the bricks, 2 different colors, sometimes in black and white, that can look really cool. I think it's just a suggestion to try it. Yeah. I always, I'll tell you, I have a rule. I never post a photo and ask anybody if they like it in black and white or in color. Like those, I see a lot of people do that. And honestly, folks, it's going to end up 50-50. You're going to have 50% of the people go like, I like color. And 50% of the people are going to be like, I like black and white. And that's not going to really help you.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at the image and say, does the color do anything for the power of the image or for the voice of the image that I'm trying to create? And if it doesn't, try looking at it in black and white. And I always tell people, don't rush your stuff. Put it in black and white. Wait a few days, come back and look at it. See if you still have the same feeling. Then look at it in color, and you can A/B that yourself, and it will get easier for you to see what, and it's okay to shoot everything. I know guys who shoot everything in black and white. And, I know for me, I feel like I'm getting in a rut if I post, but you'll look through my feed and I post a lot of things in black and white because I'm just like, nope, this image just works better in black and white for me. We a few years ago did a fall shoot with Ron Clifford out of Toronto. He's amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing photographer. And Ron and I went out together in an autumn and went shooting. It was here in New York, and it was a little past peak season, so a lot of leaves on the ground, but not a lot of leaves on the trees, and the color was not all that great. And I shot the entire 2 days that we were together. I shot everything in black and white, and he kept looking at the back of my camera. He's on the final day, he comes up, he says, "You're like the only person I know that would go the entire fall and shoot all the colors in black and white." And he goes, "Is there some reason?" I said, "Yeah." I said, it's not popping enough for, it's not doing enough for me. And I just wanted to, I've shot a lot of this stuff before. I said, I wanted to see, and man, those are some of the best photos I've taken of those areas were in this high contrast black and white. It was really an amazing experience to just be like, I'm not going to shoot color, even when there was some color there to shoot.
Now go ahead.
Yeah, he was just there for just the color.
Yeah, right. So, now you're shooting in RAW, right?
I was, and I was shooting in JPEG too. So,
okay. Because RAW, you can shoot in black and white, and you still have the color image.
Yeah, and so I have this mode on my camera called high contrast black and white. And I don't shoot Nikon. Nice try. Don't shoot it, Mike. I watched the show. I'm a Sony shooter. Nice try.
You caught that, huh?
Yeah, I did. You tried to slide it in there. I remember. Yep. So anyways, I have this mode on my camera. It's called high contrast black and white. And it's only those modes are only available in JPEG. You can't shoot a RAW and a JPEG at the same time. You just get the JPEG version of it. But it is such a cool thing to go out and use this mode. It's still the full size photo, uncompressed, JPEG. It's so cool to go out and shoot those photos and come home and load them up on Lightroom and go, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, they're already almost there. Yeah,
it's there. And so, yeah, I like playing with that every once in a while, challenge myself, manual focus, just go at it as completely raw as possible. And just, see what comes out, because sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it sucks. I mean, so yeah, I would definitely try this in black and white, just to see, William. For sure.
And one more thing, for one of the other, I was looking at this as we were talking, one of the other reasons he might have shot it from this angle is head on that sign at the front of it. I can't read it from where I'm at.
It's angled away.
Yeah, it's angled away, and the front shot you may not have been able to read that. So that might have been another reason he chose this angle.
Yeah, and I think, William, if you want to keep that, I would move a little bit to the left so you can get the full word home in there, because you have Virgil, and then I think it's home. It could be Homer. I'm not sure what the other word is.
Yeah.
So you've got the 3 words there, and one of them's cut off. So it's finding that angle where you can get all those 3 words on the front of the building. And I'm sure he did try different angles and stuff. And if I'm a real estate person or a city council person and want this photo, I mean, it's great. It's going to go on the wall. So good job,
William. Thanks for entering again.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, our last one from the beginners group is from Norman Schultz.
Hey, Norman.
And Norman says, giant soap bubbles messing with contrast. And soap bubbles, William, Norman, if you ever tried this, Don Komarachka does this, and other photographers do too. A frozen soap bubble can produce, and with a certain light hitting off of it, just really gorgeous images. Almost look out of this world.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Norman, 20 below.
Yeah. So
because soap bubbles don't freeze all that willingly.
So you won't be able to do that here in Atlanta. You have to do that somewhere else. My comment here is the background to me is, I don't know what's going on back there, a brick wall or something else.
Yep.
Is distracting and moving me away. Whatever that line, that dark line that's going right down the center, toward the center. Maybe it's a tree or something back there.
Yeah.
Something that you can see the brick wall. My focus keeps going there. So I don't know how you could have done this with maybe all the bubbles against a black background or not so dark of a background.
Yeah, I think, so when I looked at the image, for me, the real story is the reflection in the bubbles, which he captured, and they look like they're sharp. And so for me, when I see it, I'm like, so the main subject is the bubbles, and I think the secondary support is the reflections, which I think is cool. And then the rest of it is non-consequential, I think. The tree or whatever it is back there, it looks like a tree with like Bob's Burgers wife hiding behind it or something, her shape of her head or something. It just looks weird. And to me, that doesn't really lend to it. I think if you cropped in on this, Mike, and we normally, I apologize, folks. I just got off the road and I've been super busy. In fact, my main fire alarm in my house battery died just 10 minutes before we were going to go on the air, Mike, and I had to climb up on a ladder and change it. Things have been like that all week. So I didn't have a chance to put any of this stuff in Photoshop to show you guys demonstrations. But I think, Norman, if you crop this down and just made the bubbles, and you could just do this in Lightroom or whatever, just try it without the tree and see if the image doesn't have more kind of power to it if you kind of get that background out of there, because I think the background is really it's noise.
That one big bubble has an interesting reflection in it that I wish I knew more about.
Right, and I think closer up on that and making that a little bit more of a draw you into that, because when I look at the photo, I'm drawn towards that bubble. And then I'm deflected by the tree, and I just want to kind of want to get drawn into those cool floaty. It looks like a little floating city, right, inside the bubble. So I think if he cropped this down, and that might not be ideal, he might already be cropped in, but at least you can see, the difference in the image, and that way next time you get a chance to shoot something like this, you're kind of composing it in camera at that point. And that's why I usually suggest this cropping. I'm not telling people like, oh, crop all your images and then make big prints of them, because but cropping them gives you an idea of kind of what if the power of the image changes by doing that. And so I always suggest to try it. So
all right, and I should have mentioned at the beginning of the show, you want to hang around to the end, because AD's going to critique one of my images. So if you ever wondered, why is Mike critiquing other people? Well, Mike's going to get critique at the end. All right. So that's it for the July images for the beginners. Now we're going to go into the last ones of the regular group. And up first is this image from Ebenezer.
Yes.
And he says sunset on the banks of Yamuna, somewhere in India.
I think you got it. I think that's
Okay.
yeah.
He even has it there in the title underneath the image. If you can read that, it's pretty small with what I'm streaming. Nice sunset over there of the city that he's got going on. I love the sunset, sunset, sunrises, such gorgeous, colors in the sky and everything like that.
Yep.
And, just beautiful to watch. For me, the foreground's a little distracting with all that stuff. Maybe if you went up to the water's edge, if you could have got in front of all that greenery there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so my suggestion here is one of the things with sunsets and water and birds and sometimes when we look at something, we got to kind of to make an image more powerful or to bring the message across. If you have a flock of birds and they're part of the story, I would leave them in. You got little birds dotted here and there, they're out of here. Mm-hmm. Clone tool, get rid of them. You've got your horizon right in the center of the image. And unless it's a reflection, what we call a reflective symmetry image, where we're reflecting a cityscape off water or whatnot, that's kind of a huge no-no to put a horizon dead center because you're bisecting your subject matter. And Mike hit it right on the head. Foreground is basically fighting with the sunset. What's your story here? Is your story the sunset against the cityscape? Then get in there, get in on it. Move forward, get that grass out of the way, put the horizon in the lower thirds, all right, the water line in the lower third, and then the upper third becomes that beautiful sky and the city contrast, and there's your story. But right now we've got grass blowing and we've got birds in the water, we got birds in the sky. It's like I'm everywhere in this image, and so it's a beautiful, beautiful area and the sky is amazing. It's the right time of day and everything.
Yeah.
It just comes down to that composition and knowing, what happens when we move things around. And again, easy to find out here. If you want to, Ebenezer, you can take this image and crop it down and you can go with a wide crop, like a 16:9 here, or even wider, maybe a 21:9 cinematic. And you can make this image will blow your mind when you actually do that. And a voice in the chat, Gary always hits it right on the head. Yep. Less is more. He's exactly right. We've got too much going on in the image, and I think that distracts us from the beauty that you're trying to bring us here, and the beauty that's obviously there. So break it down for the viewer so that they get the basic stories. And you've got many photos here. You've got maybe you shoot a portrait here and you use that foreground and you make that more of the subject. Maybe shoot through those tall pieces of grass with the sun behind it, bokeh it out. I've got a few shots like that from the beach, and they're awesome. They make me feel like I'm right back at the beach again. Yeah. So think about those compositions when you're out there getting this this beautiful sunsets and sunrises like this. So you definitely can. You have lots of shots that you can take advantage of in one shot. So
absolutely. Yeah, all right. So Ebenezer, and he enters every month. So thanks, Ebenezer.
Awesome.
All right. Up next is this image from Daryl Harrington, who is normally our landscape photographer, but if you remember yes. last show or show before last, he was at a photography event where he was able to borrow a D850 and some lenses, and this one was with a D850, Nikon D850, and a Nikon 105mm f1.4 that he was shooting. So he's shooting people here, some actors that were there available, some models for them, and he was just saying how he loves this combo, the lens, which is an awesome lens, and the D850 in the background just melt away. Of the two that he posted, and it's been a while since the previous show, so you may not remember, but the two that he posted, I think I like this one better.
Yeah, I like this one. I like the it's candid. The guy's got a real I've been working a long day here. I think he's supposed to be a Scottish warrior of some sort.
That's what I would get from it.
and William Wallace kind of
Yeah.
dude. I personally, Daryl, I would experiment a little bit on portraits like this. The cosplay is so much fun for me to work with because, you could take a pretty lens and take a pretty photo of a warrior, and those kind of, to me, it's like, I don't know if they go together well. I would
Yeah.
kind of grit this up a little bit and see if I could bring some texture out of that face so he looks a little bit more war torn and like like I'm ready. I'm back from battle and that sort of thing. But it's just fun to experiment. I mean, what can you say? It's a gorgeous lens. It's the focus is spot on, so the color's good. I think some frequency separation in the skin a little bit because I'm seeing a little bit of ruddiness in the skin, a little bit of blotchiness. So using your frequency separation and pulling the reds out a little bit will even his skin tone a little bit more, and then try gritting it up a little bit with some clarity or just kind of playing around with it. I like to desaturate a lot of times and then do like a dehaze on a portrait, which just sounds weird, and then take the clarity and actually lower the clarity, but push the dehaze up. It gives you a very interesting effect and keeps that softness, but also makes the features stand out a little bit more. And it's a very soft image. So maybe we're showing the soft side of the warrior here. I guess I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. Up next, I like this image. This one is from, where's his name? Jose Matutina.
Yes.
This is what remains of the crane that was used to unsuccessfully salvage the freighter SS Dominator that was caught on the rocks of Palos Verdes, California, 1961. ND filters were not used, so this is not a long exposure. We're using ND filters. The shot is a series, and I got something blocking the rest of it. A series of 16 exposures stacked in Photoshop and the mean values applied.
Yep.
Images taken with a Sony.
Oh, horrible. Well, so I like this image too. There is some things about the processing though that this is a good way to fake a long exposure image. This technique of using blending in Photoshop and then doing a median or a mean blend is something that's actually done now called pixel shifting for super resolution images, which is something I've been practicing with lately. Where during the shot, during the 16 to 20 exposures, you actually move the camera ever so slightly. And then when you put those images all together, they actually make this super resolution image. It's actually higher resolution. And it's a pretty interesting technique that takes a lot of horsepower in the computer. This is different what he's doing. He's getting the clouds to draw out by layering them on top of each other in different positions. And while it works great for the clouds, I would highly suggest that he looks at trying to layer in the lower half of the image of the crane itself without using that particular, like use one exposure to layer that in.
Okay.
Because I'm seeing a white highlight around the entire crane that makes it look like it's pasted in there. And I know it's not,
right,
but it's part of that process of using the mean value of those many exposures. So, this is, Jan just mentioned in the chat. I like to reference the chat. I know we're like 20 seconds off here, but Jan says it conveys the age that you get. And so one of the things that I started doing, I think like 3 years ago, I started a series of photos of these abandoned things like these old cranes and old cars and whatnot, and super long exposures. And because I felt that it conveyed the passage of time, and how long these things have been there. Like you can take a picture of it and process it and do all sorts of things, but those clouds stretching out over the top mean time is passing very rapidly on something that's very old. And so he's done that perfectly here. I'm a huge fan of that. And maybe Jose add a little bit more contrast. I'm not sure, but you need to look at those white lines that are that surround the outline of the crane. And I'm not sure if Mike is seeing them on his
I
end.
didn't see them when I first looked at them, and I kind of see them now.
Yeah, it stuck right out to me because I'm always like, when I see an image like this, I wonder how it was made. Like, I saw he didn't use an ND filter, so that made me look closer. And I think a lot of times when you create an image like this, great composition, by the way, you're right in the zone for the thirds. Everything's looking great. It's just that post-processing thing where those lines are showing. I want to look at the detail of this old crane, and the minute I get in close, I see those white lines, and it makes me think, is the sky overlaid? Did he paste in a sky here? Or is the sky real? And then I start doubting the image, and that's not the direction that we want to go in.
Yeah.
So just Jose, I just look at the post-processing there and make sure if you're masking that out for any reason, you can actually contract the mask a little bit. And I've even done a thing where if that's a layer by itself, I've created a style for the layer and used an inner glow, and I turn the inner glow to black, and then I turn the black layer blending, I turn that into darken, and then I control the opacity. It allows me to eliminate that dark outline quite easily, because then I have like a gradient that I can apply all the way around where I have that image, that layer cut out. If that's not what's happening, I would see how it's being addressed in using the mean values so that you can repair that. Because somebody's going to want this printed, I'll guarantee you. And when you print it, you're really going to see them then. So,
good tips.
Yeah.
All right. Next one up is from our good friend Amber. Here we go. And awesome. This is Amber again. Her other one was using a similar technique where she's exploring portraits with wide angle lenses.
Cool.
Especially, she picked up a 14 millimeter for vacation, and have been trying that. The lens is micro 4/3 and is around the equivalent of 28 millimeters on a full frame.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's correct, but maybe it is. Is micro 4/3 2x crop?
I know it's more than the Nikon 1.5 and more than the Canon. Isn't Canon generally 1.6 or something like that?
Yeah, I thought the micro 4/3 is 1.8, but anyways, it doesn't matter. She's trying something new. I don't know if folks know that, portraits shooting with like an 85 millimeter lens is very popular because body proportions look a certain way. And then when you start to use a wide lens, it can make body proportions look weird. It can make your head look smaller or bigger, your bottom look bigger and smaller, and all sorts of crazy angles just by tilting the lens, which is cool because she's starting to experiment with how to use the lens to make people look better. Mm-hmm. Not everybody, a lot of people want photos done. They may not have the perfect, what we call the perfect body shape, which is ridiculous to begin with. But if you want to help them feel good about themselves, you want to, change their image a little bit, or, if you've ever seen somebody say, man, I keep coming back to you for photos because I don't know what you're doing, but I look good in your photos, right?
Well, just so y'all all know, I'm really ripped and skinny. But I've set the camera at a certain angle to. Yep. I don't want to intimidate everybody else. So
Right. Yeah. And then so I'm exactly the opposite, Mike. I'm a pretty large guy.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing.
We're just doing that all for you guys.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry to interrupt you, AD, and throw you off.
No. Anyways, I'm just saying, I think it's great that Amber's continuing to experiment and try different things. And this is a great example of doing it. This is another image, though, Amber. I love the stairs and the grittiness of all that kind of stuff. I kind of gritty this image up a little bit. That's my word for tonight. Gritty it up. Gritty it up.
Okay. And Jose is actually on Facebook. So he gave us a couple of things. He said, thanks for the critique. And then he said he resorted to this technique because his ND filters produce light leaks.
Ooh, yes. I've had that problem. Yep. You can fix that, Jose. We could talk about that on a show. I'd need to know more about your filter, but there are ways to repair that and make it so that you can use them. But I would love to know more from him, not now because we're moving on to another image here, but at some point in time, if he wants to post or get a hold of me, I'd love to see his set of images and maybe give him a tutorial on how he can still get the same effect and eliminate that from the image for him. So if he wants to contact me, you know how to do that. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. Yep. So
if you don't know how, Jose, hang on to the end. We'll show you how.
Yeah.
All right. Last image from the regulars group is this one from who is it? Norman Schultz? Yeah, Norman.
Yes.
And this, if you remember last show or before, Norman had another one that he took in the same boat area. What do you call it? The marina, and where he had the gas station. So this is that same morning, I believe, early morning fog, sun burning through the dense fog.
Yeah. I hate to do this to you. This is because this is just a learning show. Can you go back an image real quick?
Yep. Oh, hold on. Go back to this one.
So Gary just mentions that it's interesting that the light on the stairs is coming from one side, which I think is from, you can see part of a railing there, Gary, on the upper right corner that's lower. So I think the light is coming over that. And Amber probably used a bounce here or a flash to get more of that light to shine on his face. If not, the light is actually coming over that railing, I think. But it looks like she bounced a flash here. So I noticed he posted in there that it's the light is coming from the camera right, yet it's dark over there. So I think she's probably using a reflector or she's using some sort of flash from the right over. And maybe she's even done something cool like put it on the other side of the railing or something. So I just wanted to mention that because people probably were wondering why that was doing that. So.
No, that is a good thing he pointed out there too. And if Amber, I don't know if Amber's out there tonight, it'd be, if you hear us later, let us know how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once again, Amber, great job. No reflections in the glasses.
She's mastered that.
Oh yeah. That's very hard. I see it all the time.
So. All right, back to Norman's image here.
Yes.
From you talked about in one of the earlier ones, if the birds or ducks or whatever else are not adding to the image. Yeah. So here you got, I guess, 2 off, maybe right around the center line of the image, off on the left-hand side. Those could have been easily cloned out.
Yep. And I'm not sure. Did he submit this? This was submitted after we talked about his. Or before we talked about his other image, right?
Yeah, and it's in the same contest. Yep.
Right, and this is the same thing with this one, Norman. Beautiful image. This one's much better composed than the other one, I think. Clone out that red and green LED sign from this image. Get rid of the ducks and whatever that shadow is of a shore or a dock over there on the right above the duck, or on the left, the duck above the duck on the left, because that's all just distractions. The story here is the boats and the dock, and then fading off into the distance with the light coming in beautifully from the right. A digital sign. Come on, that's just. I mean, I don't want to see that.
That's the same sign from the other.
Yeah, same thing.
He walked down the dock. Yeah.
And I really like the feeling of this image. I agree with Gary on this, but I think this one has more of that harbor feeling than the other one did. Even though we did a lot of editing on the other one because of the sign and and the gas things and whatnot. And here you can't really tell that those are gas things from this angle, which I think is cool. I like the lights. I love the reflections. It's just 2 photobombing ducks in the digital sign that really are kind of, getting in the way of this beautiful image. So
well done, Gary. Norman.
Yes.
Thank you for entering. All right. So that was it for the July images that were submitted.
Good job, guys.
So as a treat toward the end, you guys are going to get to hear AD critique one of my images. It wasn't taken as part of this contest. It's a separate image. So we're going to try and throw one of mine in at the end. So you can hear me get critiqued. All right, AD, are you ready for this one?
Sure.
Okay, and so just to give it a little build up, I put this one on that Is Your Image Awesome site. I think I did it live in one of the post shows of one of the after shows, whatever, and it got a 0. It got a 0.
Yeah.
So AD can't do much harder critique on me than a 0 with this one. So all I would say about this one, I did not do any post-processing crop on it. So this is as it was in the camera. It was a shot. For me, one of the things I try to do when I'm shooting sports is you get the action, all that. But I love looking around and finding out who has, emotion in their face, with good or bad, whatever it is, not just the athletes, but also spectators. Yep. And try and get moments that are outside of the normal action also. So this was a little girl who was getting ready for her turn to go in. And I noticed she had everybody puts their goggles on a little different way. She put hers on this way that resulted in her doing this. And I spun around and caught her doing this right before she went to get in. And the moment lasted just seconds, and then she had them on and she was ready to go. But it is a tight crop. I generally like to come in tight on the athletes. And so there you go. And any other information I need to give you, AD?
I think, no, I think that's good.
Okay.
I think it's good. So as far as, so let me talk a little bit about that website, first of all. I took some time and edited your image. And,
this one?
Yep.
Okay.
And I did a bunch of stuff to it. I tried everything that I could. And I could only get it to 0.1%. No matter what I did, 0.1% was all that I could get it to rate on that website. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If you look at the tags on the site that it brought up, one of the things that it brought up was smile. And I'm like, right, that's wrong. I think that it's looking at the image like it's a portrait. It says, oh, there's a human here, there's a person here, but there's other things going on, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't, the program's not sophisticated enough to understand the funny moment that you caught here, the decisive moment, as we often say. And so I look at like your goal as bringing moments of this event to parents and their children, the students there. This hits the nail on the head. So I would immediately say that the image is a win as far as that goes. Can you make the image better? You can always play with an image, and there's always ideas. I did a portrait crop on this and cut out her elbow, and I'll tell you why. It's because there's all this contrast. There's a person with it looks like they're either shouting or they have binoculars or something behind her in the bokeh. And it's kind of distracting to me when I crop this to just her face and her hands and the real scene here, that goes away. And now I don't have that distraction. I'm really drawn to just this moment. And I think immediately, that's a magazine cover. That's awesome. Yeah. Right. The other thing that kind of bugs me a little bit is the veins in her bicep. And I don't know why, but it's just, that's a personal thing for me. I probably would have cloned those out, believe it or not. But it kind of solved the problem just by
cropping it,
cropping it and going portrait, because her elbow, I kind of saw what you're going for, but she's not really in the third of the image. So she's kind of like left of thirds in the image. But that was really the only suggestion that I had on this, was just to try that vertical crop and see what you think. I don't think it loses. I always ask myself, am I losing the story here by cropping it? And if my answer is no, then I go and say, okay, if I'm not losing anything, am I eliminating distractions? Am I simplifying the image and making it more powerful in that direction? And if my answer is yes, it gets the crop. That's how I basically deduce that. So that was my only suggestion. I think it's an excellent shot. And I don't think that, when I saw that on the pro, I was like, that is harsh, because it obviously doesn't understand anything about, and that goes back to what we talk about, why we do this and why we ask everybody for, why did you take this photo? Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what Gary and Jan think. Sorry, guys, or Nancy or anybody. Their opinions, really. And unless we look at it with Mike's eyes, and that's why Mike basically told me what he was doing, then I can say, okay, I'm looking at this with Mike's eyes. Now I can say, what else could we do to make it more powerful? And what did he do properly, or what did he do right here to get his goal? Like, is his goal to show the emotion? Boom, done. You got it. She's a powerful image. Even with the background, I'm still fixated on the goggles being pulled on. So, that's just, for me, trying things is just second opinion. But, and again, opinions don't really matter. You met your goal here, so I think it's a win. That's my.
Gary said something about give the parents both. Yeah, the problem with parents, just about all parents, they're going to love any image of their child. So yes, of course they love this image. So you can't really use them as a guide to whether. I guess if you're selling it to them, and I'm not selling these. Sure. If you're selling it to them, hey, that's a winner then. But they're not necessarily the best of judges of photos of their own children. For me, when I got home with it, I liked it, but there were two things I wish I'd done one of two things. Either got both elbows, because she was, had her arms up like that, both elbows in there, or a tighter shot and cut off both elbows and had her maybe more center.
Yeah. And again, you don't have to really wish for it. You could kind of just crop it, I think, and you'd be there. But
I think get close to it, yeah. But I wish I had a little more room on the left.
Yeah, that's a big mistake that a lot of photographers make, not just in portrait photographer, but landscapes too, is pushing things right to the edge. Yeah. And you got to give yourself a little room, because, again, people might want something printed, and that means it's going to get matted, or, you can, it's hard to sell things on metal for the price. I would sell probably 50 paper images that are matted before I'd sell one metal image, maybe even more than that. It's the price difference. People just are like, no, I'll take a paper, and you have to mat those. I mean, if they're going to put them in a frame, and they don't usually go in without a mat or some sort of border. Yeah. In the frame itself. So I see a lot of times that, we get in a little too tight. And so, but I don't think you should dock yourself here. You captured a brilliant moment, at, right at the right time. Yeah. Gary, that's a good point, man. Wait, I'm not supposed to listen to you. No,
well, and Nancy had a point. When I say that parents aren't the best judges of photos of their kids, not all parents. Nancy was a critical parent. So, if you can look at the image of your own kid and still be objective, that's pretty good, because a lot of parents can't. You were talking about shooting too tight. That is something, especially with sports, I tend to do too much of. And I don't know if it's just, going back in the days when I was shooting with a Nikon D2H, it was 4 megapixels, and you couldn't crop in that much. You barely had it, and they didn't want to do much post processing. You were shooting a JPEG and moving on, and that kind of stuck with me. So I've not, Gary's right. There's lots of megapixels now, and leave yourself a little buffer to crop later, so you can do some of that stuff. But I have a tendency to shoot way too tight sometimes.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. There's in the story that I just released, I talk about shooting 685 photos, and only one photo was acceptable.
Wow!
When I of a single subject while I was on this trip, and it was a lot of things. Too tight crop, focus just a little bit off. It was, didn't like the composition, couldn't crop it to make it work. The water didn't cooperate. The sand blasting in my face didn't cooperate. All of that stuff. It was just stuff that happens in the field. And I was lucky to get one image out of 688. Luckily, we can do that these days. With the sporting events, it's a lot harder. I have a lighthouse, and 55-mile-an-hour winds and waves coming in. It's pretty much going to go on for a few hours. I'm same subject, stand in one spot, shoot it. But sporting's like done. Like you got your 2 seconds and you're done.
So you are banging out a lot of shots, and you do have to anticipate some of the action. You're going to miss some of it. You're going to be in the wrong place. You know, if you're there shooting, you're often going to have a parent or somebody say, "Did you get that? Did you get that?" Like, no, that's way over there. I'm right here. You know,
right.
My back was to it. You're not going to get everything. Yeah, so
you don't have a 360-degree camera that takes pictures of everything all the time.
Yeah. Right. And so you're going to miss things, but you set yourself up to capture, they have the best, opportunity or best, what do you call it? Luck, whatever.
Yeah. And that's luck has a lot to do with it for sure. And that's one of the things I talked about in that part of the story was just, I was lucky. I knew when to be there. I knew what the subject was, but I was lucky to get one out of the 680 some photos that, I was like, this is something I want to show other people that came out perfect. So, and I think your shot, Mike, is, I think you're really hard on yourself, little self-doubt maybe going on in there because I liked the shot the minute I saw it. I thought it was great. So
good. Thank you.
I didn't, the suggestions that I give you are just like I give anybody else, just play with it and try things. And if they don't work, then you went in the right direction. So.
All right. So we're going to probably do some critique, Mike, at the end of some of these going forward. So I'll be part of the critique.
You just found and determined we're going to be enemies at some point.
No, I take the critique. I'm fine with that. If I put up one in the future that you hate, you just tell me. You're always so good, AD, at giving feedback that is not, I don't think you've ever given feedback that's hurtful. I'm learning from you to try and be more productive with my, I can't think of the word here, but your feedback is helpful and not hurtful. And I know where you're coming from. You're coming from a place of trying to help versus tear somebody down.
Well, I think it's easy to hate on something. So it's, if you go out and writing a good review, something I've learned, I'm part of the Google Explorers. And so when I go out, I'm one of those people who takes pictures of their food and takes pictures of the restaurant that we're in. And I write reviews on places that I go. And if I like the place, I write a good review. And it's really hard for people to write nice things. It's weird to say, but it's easy for somebody to troll and say, in fact, someday just for kicks, at the after show, we ought to just go over on Flickr and I'll do bad critiques and I can show you how I can tear everybody's photos to shreds, but it won't mean anything because you can always find something you don't like about something.
Sure. Yeah.
It's difficult to look at something and say, yeah, I didn't take that. I like it though. I mean, and that's a different way of thinking. And I think that's what I try to promote. I've had a lot of people go against what I do in my photography, and it's held me back. And I just feel that I don't want to be like that with other people. I want them to move forward. Why would I want to hold them back? I mean, it's not going to put me any farther up. I mean, what's the saying that, pissing on somebody else's candle doesn't make yours any brighter. So I think that
I've not heard that term, but that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those things that, I don't know. I think it's better to have a positive community to move forward and be creative, and new things are going to come out of it. New cameras will come out of it, new ways of shooting and all this kind of stuff come out of it. We wouldn't have things like HDR. We wouldn't have super resolution, and some of the camera developments that we have of it weren't for photographers trying new things and opening the eyes of developers and engineers saying, oh yeah, we should try to do this. And that it all feeds on itself. So if you're negative, you're going to be negative by yourself and alone and not happy. And so I think it's just better to be positive and supportive of people and help them get over their roadblocks. I think you feel better as a person.
Well, and hopefully the people who submit, and we appreciate everybody who's submitting, that you're getting feedback. Sure. I see Norman's out there now, and Jose and Nancy and Gary and Jan, and if I missed you, sorry, out there, and they've all submitted at some time or another, and some of them on a regular basis. And hopefully you're getting feedback that's helping you grow as a photographer and not feel like I don't want to submit because they're going to tear me down, because that's not what we're hopefully doing here.
No. Yeah, and that's not our goal. And we couldn't do this show if it wasn't for you guys. So
Absolutely.
I mean, we'd be over on Flickr just pointing and making fun of people, and that's not good.
Mike's images all the time. All right, so we're gonna wrap up the show. Got a few things to talk about before we head into post show. But if you want to get the show, if you want to subscribe to the show, you can get us on iTunes, video large and small. You can get us on YouTube and Vimeo, and then an RSS feed. We're video only, so you have to get one of the video shows. The easiest way is, of course, over on YouTube, where the whole show, the pre-show, post-show, and all that is out there. I move it over to a special, what are they called? Playlist. That is the live show. So if you want to get that, if not, just wait a few days and the edited version will be up. All right, so head on over to AD's website, which is theexplorographer.com. He has a brand new, I say brand new, I think it's minutes old.
It is minutes old.
Post right here called, it's the name of your shirt that you have on. So if you can pronounce that name before I mess it up. Charlevoix, yes. Michigan and beyond, and some awesome images. We'll look at some of these images in the post show if you don't mind, AD.
Sure.
Yeah, so some awesome images, and I love how you mixed in some of your drone footage too.
Yes, I'm starting to take photos with my drone now.
Yes, that was as a viewer looking through your images and seeing those, and then seeing some of those same scenes from the drone angle of view. It's like, wow, I really felt like I was getting a better feel of the area with those two mixed in there, and they were just fantastic.
I actually included in this post some of my techniques and settings that I don't normally include those in my posts. I'm trying to feel out my audience and see if they like the information about the images. So I'm including, like you'll see in some of the images, there's settings below the image in the caption.
Oh, nice.
So, because I normally don't do that, and I know people like to learn and that sort of stuff. So
I love this. I can't get the whole thing in one screen, but but who hasn't come across a road and say, "Man, that road looks fantastic to your eyes," taking the photo and then come back and like, "Dang it, I didn't get it." I love how you got so much of the road here. I'd have to do this a little differently, maybe make it smaller to get that feel of, or really get the feel of the road there. That is just awesome.
I had to dodge cars to get that shot, and it's a single lane road called the Tunnel of Trees, and it goes on for like 15 miles, and it's just trees encompassing the road the entire time. That. It's really brilliant. So it was an amazing trip.
Well, you have to go over to theexplorographer.com and check out that post. It's brand new, like I said. And over there is also all the different ways you can contact AD. Over here on the right, you see all these little links that you can contact him. So, Jose, we're talking earlier about you contacting AD. If you need to know how to do that, there's all the different ways you can contact him. And we're going to look at his album a little bit later. Also, check out thecreators.com over on Patreon. And you have a link there if you're a supporter. I think you have to be a supporter to see this, right?
Yes, supporters got to see the photos last week. Okay. So I didn't. I posted them earlier. I hope Nancy doesn't go anywhere for the post show because she's posting right now. So one of the things I wanted to mention tonight that I haven't mentioned before is if you are a Patreon of mine. Of course, we have this same sort of community that we have going on, only it goes much deeper than what we do on the photo review show. Mike doesn't pay me. He does this wonderful thing at the end of the show where he shows my website and he talks about my stuff, and I tell him all the time he doesn't need to do that. But that's kind of like my reward for doing the critiques. This is what I do. And so one of the cool things is that everyone who's a Patreon, which means anybody who pays $1 a month, gets access to my entire store of photo tools for free. I mean, you get everything that's in there. It's like $160 worth of fun stuff to play with, and I'm making new stuff all the time. So if you don't want to buy stuff in my photo tools store, subscribe on Patreon for $1, and you get it all for $1.
And we get access to when you do the live streams.
Live streams and beta stuff that I develop. Sometimes you get stuff that no one else ends up getting because I'm like, nope, I'm not going any further with that, but you guys can have it and play with it. So
I know you talked earlier in the show about that technique of the pixel shift.
Yes,
and you're working on that.
resolution.
So hopefully sometime in the future you'll do a show on, if that works out for you, if you do a show on how that worked out and how we can do that maybe.
Yeah, I can. We could do a post show on that sometime, Mike. Or I'm planning on making a Photoshop action so that you can actually download the action. It'll be one of my free actions on the website for everybody for free. And basically, it'll take your images and it'll do this automatically for you, so you don't have to do all the like 5-6 complicated steps. So I'm still working on the script for that. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Weird. It's really weird and hard to do, but once you learn how to do it, I think people would really have fun with it. So,
well, search for the creators over on Patreon, or you probably have a link also on your website where you can get it from there. So search for that, and like you said, it's anywhere from $1, or depending on what you're wanting to get from it. He has it all laid out there on the right hand side. You can see what the different things are you get from there. Check it out and see if it's something you're interested in. And we all love supporting AD. All right, so that's it for this week. We'll talk in the post show about when we're going to come back and move on to the August images. What? Did I miss something?
Under an hour.
Yes,
How
we
did
are.
we do that?
Yes, we are. We're supposed to be even faster than that, but we're struggling to get under the time frame. We're going to head into the post show. Hang around. We'll show some AD's photos from that trip. All right. Until next time, keep shooting. Good night, everybody.
Good night.